defeat, but what happens when you have a bad race? And I keep telling my son, like, Mariano Rivera, he's relief pitcher, comes in, boom. Someone hits a home run out of the park, he moves on to the next game, he doesn't think about it. Kids sometimes take that defeat with them, and then talk about winning, and you won a lot. Sometimes I see some, rather smug people up there after they won versus gracious people. So it's a long question, but it's just
multi.
There was a question.
Part question.
Is there ever? And by the way, just so you know, I was going to talk about all this when I speak, but I'm not going to anymore. I'm going to have you do it.
I'm going to do it.
All right. So my closing remarks will be like 30 seconds.
So we're going to start at the beginning. The first part of that question was, what are the life skills? And I think all sports have a common thread on life skills as far as hard work pays off. What you put in is what you get out. Humility is important in defeat. All sports have that. Skiing is unique, and my wife was a swimmer, and she had a hard time with skiing until this year. She turned the corner, and for the first 10 years of or 8 years of my kids skiing, she would complain, there's so much equipment, and it's cold out there, and this and that. And then finally this year, she saw the light that ski racing, that's what makes it special. You've got your kid, your 8-year-old and your 10-year-old kids and your 12-year-old kids, they've got to lug their own equipment around. They have to make sure it's in decent shape. They've got to make sure they remember it. And then they get, once they're out there, they have to deal with -4-degree temperatures. Today was -20 in Park City, and Sunday it's going to be -4 here. Vermont -4, and that's cold. And so they get tough from the elements. They learn to deal with their equipment, and it's not just deal with equipment. It's just deal with stuff in life. And I think there's a common strain through ski racers who stuck with it, that they're tough and they're tenacious, and they fall and they dust themselves off and they get up. And in addition to all the other things that you get from competing in sports, then all the benefits. So I think we could talk about those benefits, but skiing, I think, has even more than most sports, and those are just a few of the things. So hope that answers it, at least part of it.
Yeah.
What about jackasses who win and dealing with the disappointment and defeat? Any thoughts on
disappointment in defeat, or the thrill of victory? I think skiing is similar to golf as well. I always tell people having a selective short-term memory is a really good thing. So it's easy. It's really good to forget certain things, but you do have to take the lessons and move forward. But you can't dwell on the mistakes you've made. You just take them and move forward, and that's take what you've learned and apply it to the next race. And another life lesson right there that can be applied in any facet.
What was the best advice you got from a coach? Any time in your career?
That's I don't have. Actually, the best advice I ever had from somebody at a race, or the sort of the defining moment, was my dad. And it was in Buffalo. We moved to Vermont when I was 12, and I was 9 or 10. And I actually incorporated this into my Hall of Fame induction speech, because I felt like my parents were my biggest influence and the biggest driving force for me. And when I was 9 or 10, I asked for Christmas for a padded sweater, and the padded sweaters were new, and I got this white sweater with these red pads.
He has one.
And,
Vintage.
He still wears it. Better yet.
I wish I had
I
one.
will.
Yeah.
Tomorrow wear it.
Yeah.
You wanna wear
Yeah. So this thing I was so excited about it. I kept it in the plastic bag till race day, and we went up first slalom after Christmas, and I take my first run, and I come down thinking that I'm just going to dominate because this new sweater. So I come through the finish, and of course I'm way behind, and I walk over to my dad, and I'm so mad that I didn't win this race because of my new sweater. And I said, Dad, I'm quitting skiing. I'm gonna sell my skis, sell my poles, get rid of my boots. You can even sell my sweater. That's the most important thing to me, and you can sell it. And he looked at me and he said, okay, that's fine. You only have to do one thing, and that's go up there and take your second run. So he didn't get mad at me. He didn't show disappointment. He just said, that's fine. We'll do that, but take your second run. So I went up, took my second run, and anyway, came through the finish, and was happy enough that the sweater stayed. Yeah. But for him, it was the fact that he didn't blow up. He just stayed calm, and he said that, let's just, you're not giving up, and that stayed with me through my whole career, and whether it was a broken back or a knee surgery or a broken hand, whatever it was, I just wasn't going to give up. So, yeah.
Softball question. Maybe just a tad too young, but not sure. Are you any of the characters in Evie's book?
I don't know, but she has been contacting me often recently. I get an email from her every week about pro racing, about my comeback from the Pro Tour to the ski team, which is a book in itself. But I have been hearing a lot from Edie lately, so she's a great writer.
Yeah, she's got a great story.
Yeah.
Her whole thing, anybody that hasn't heard it, any of you ski race, like her whole thing about ski racing, we're starting very young, but it's a long road, and that whole speech is, one step at a time, and we're here, we're growing, and at the same time, but Matt is really just, super come on to her own, later. It's a long process, and the longer that we stay with it and all that.
But and that brings it back to my point in the beginning was the ultimate goal and the ultimate gift is your love for the sport. And if you don't make it to the Olympics, but you live until you're 80 and you ski the whole time, then that's just an amazing gift that most of the world doesn't get to do.
I'll top that one thing. Missy and I rode the lift this morning. It was awesome. And he was all bundled up, had no idea. We're talking to him. And he said, I said, do you ski often? He says, well, I don't work anymore. I said, oh, that's great. He said, I'm 89 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And he went down and he's like, I'm the best 89-year-old skier at Mount Snow. It was awesome. It made us it kind of tingled in the spine.
Yeah,
So,
that's what it's all about. Yeah, that's cool.
it was awesome.
Eric, I've got two questions. The first is you've got a lot of parents here in the room, and what sort of advice would you give to us as parents of kids at different stages of their development and in different stages of success and achievement within their ski racing career, but also just in their own sort of personal development? That's the first question. The second question is, when are you going to get away from the Buffalo Bills and finally become a Pats fan?
Never the Patriots. I wish I was that easy. It would be a lot. It would be a lot. It'd be an easier road, that's for sure, on the Buffalo Bills side. But the children, as far as parenting, I've got 2 kids myself, an 8 and a 10-year-old, and they didn't want to race until this year, and it was hard for me. But at the same time, I couldn't pressure them or force them. I was telling these guys that we did Daddy Ski Team, which was called DST. So DST was a little bit easy. The kids could sleep till 9 or 10, go for an hour or 2, and they're hungry. And I was like, okay, DST is not taking the next step. So I got them in a program this year, and I'm looking forward to that. For them to have a peer group is very important, and to have new coaches, which is very important. And I'll still ski with them, a day or 2 a week. But I think the advice, and I shared this with actually the Romark dad. The Romark, you guys are familiar with Romark Academy in Salt Lake. They have a dads club where they bring in a speaker to talk to the dads about skiing and stuff like that. So I came in and spoke to them. And one thing that resonated with them and that I believe in is matching your child's commitment. So if your kid's incredibly committed and you're not, then you're not doing them a service. If your kid's not committed and you're pushing them, that's really hard for them. And that's why I've been waiting. I'm waiting for my kids to I'm matching their commitment as we go along. And I think, and I actually learned that from my wife, who is an Olympic gold medalist. And she always says, my mom matched my commitment. She would take her to the pool at 4:30 in the morning. Once she fully committed, she was all in. And I think you have to sort of synchronize along the way with your children. And of course, for me, that was hard because I love skiing so much. I wanted them to have the same experiences, but I wasn't going to overdo it, and they weren't going to keep up with my commitment. So hopefully they'll keep doing it. If not, then they'll find something else. But matching commitment, to me, that's I think the best way to explain it.
If we're lucky, we all get to find something that we love to go all in on, right? Not everybody does all the time, but he did. And if you're lucky enough to find it, chances are it'll never leave you. So I hope you don't mind this, but last week, for the first time since his retirement from the U.S. ski team, Eric went and competed in a ski race. First time he wore a speed suit in 7 years.
Yeah.
First time he really put on race skis for real in 7 years. But he said to himself, if I'm going to go, I'm going to freaking win. So there were, how many former World Cup skiers there?
16.
16, right? 16 including all the names you know, including guys who do nothing but train and race still, going to these different events. But who do you think won? Mr. Schlope.
Where was this and why the hell were we not invited?
It was actually similar to this. It was to benefit ski team. It was Aspen Valley Ski Club. And some of the coaches there I go way back with. And they'd been asking me for years and years, but it was always over Christmas break. So I finally said, okay, I'm going to go this year. So it's all for the love of skiing and to spread the love and have the next generation understand that so yeah, it was a fun trip.
Congrats.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't a big deal.
I don't want a sugar block. Who else in this room races masters?
I Where's my jacket? Oh.
I'm soon to be. I'm in training.
You're in training?
Luke Martin's taking care of me.
You're just too young
No, 18 to be a Masters racer. He's close. I'm getting there. I ran the course there. Didn't get many games.
We gotta get you
And I
some.
picked up one as I went along.
We gotta get you some shin guards, Mike.
Mike, do you have a speed suit now?
So
My
Ben,
daughter told
Ben's
me I
laughing
have a
because
speed
he
suit.
said, you guys were just like that.
Steve, I want you to. You can't afford the therapy.